Sherm Chester and Sam Bruno, along with our special guest, Mike Murphy, on this edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum. Mike, the Associate Athletic Director of Marketing Communications at UNH for the Wildcats. And Mike, you've got a new boss over there. It's a new era at Wildcat Country.
Yeah, I mean, it's something else. Dr. Allison Rich has joined the team July 25th. Her official first day was announced right after the 4th of July weekend, and we had the introductory press conference at the Service Credit Union Victory Club on July 14th. So I feel like I know, and she prefers to be called Allison, but it's important to note she's a lawyer, has a doctorate degree, brilliant person, but down to earth. So I feel like I know her just because of the preparation going into the announcement and then the press conference. But her first day in the office, July 25th. And let's hope that, July 26th, I'm still here. I don't think she's coming in with a broom looking to sweep everybody out. I think she's looking to join.
No way, man. No way. You're integral to the whole system for sure. No about it.
Well, that's all I need to hear, guys. I'm out. That's it. End in an up note, they always tell me.
She needs a reference sender this way. You know what I mean?
Well, hopefully she watches the show.
You did a great job in the introductions that day at the press conference, and this, like you say, a lady who's got the credentials, replacing a legend, Marty Scarano, and give us a little feel for Marty's last days at the helm of UNH Wildcat sports.
It's weird. I'll be completely honest. It's very weird because Marty is a legend. I'm glad you said that, Sherm, because you only toss that word around when it matters. And at UNH, we've had some legends move on in recent times. Coach McDonald. Right. In fact, when Coach Mack retired, and people remember that press conference, and he's been gone and Coach Santos has been in place for months, Marty Scarano announced his retirement first. But the process to find the successor took all through winter, into spring, and into summer before Allison Rich was ultimately hired. So Marty's been working all along. But now this week, as we talk today, is the week where he's packing up his personal belongings and ready to yield the throne, as we say. But so it's been strange because I've been so close to Marty for a long time before I worked for him, getting to know him, but I worked for him for 12 years and just a solid individual, the ultimate in what an athletic director should be, always put the interests of the student athletes and the staff before his own. And in this world where college sports is changing by the day, it seems, Marty Scarano is a man of high integrity and has brought us to heights, meaning UNH, that had never been seen before.
Sam?
Mike, nice to see you again. I hope, and congratulations on the birth of your new grandson. That was great news to hear. You must be quite excited.
Yes, we buried the lead, but the King of the North, as I call him, Michael Gary Doucette, born on June 22nd to my daughter Katerina and son-in-law Elias up in the lovely country of Littleton, New Hampshire. So as a Concord guy, the I-93 trip I have it memorized here, going up and down, and it's been a lot of fun here this first month. And Sherman, I think it told me it gets better all the time, and he wasn't lying.
Oh yeah. It gets. I'm a veteran now of 8 grandkids and 2 more on the way.
Whoa!
I don't want to pressure anybody, but I'm okay with that.
Sherm wins.
Great. Yeah.
Mike, I guess before we move on to talk a little bit about the plans for Dr. Rich, one quick Marty Scarano story that's a favorite.
Oh boy, a quick Marty Scarano. The thing with Marty is that you could always jab him, he's a guy's guy. And people who don't realize how close we are, Sure mentioned I emceed Allison Rich's introductory press conference. I'd say I played it straight, I hope. But sometimes, with every end of the year, the senior showcase is the event where we give the year-end awards. And I always had I shouldn't say always, but in the years I've done it, probably 10 times now, Marty talks. And I always introduce Marty. And each year became, what can you say next to just jab him? And somebody would look and I say, okay, here's a man who needs no introduction, but demands one anyway. Here's the straw that stirs the drink. And, as the movie Smokey and the Bandit says, a legend and an out-of-work bum look an awful lot alike. Here's Marty Scarano. Like, how many bosses would allow you to do all those things? And He would encourage next time do it more. And he would love it. And just being able to hang with him, all these football road trips, Marty was always generous and having dinner with us or getting so excited for the game. He'd be on the sidelines right next to Coach Mack and the team, living and breathing it, and whether it's after a big win Monday morning when he'd sit down in the office and talk, or after a tough loss and we'd commiserate. It's not one story. I know I didn't answer your question, but I want to encapsulate what my relationship was with Marty, and I'll always cherish that.
Mike, I'm curious about when Dr. Rich takes the helm next week. What are going to be some of her initial challenges that she's going to face?
Now you have NIL. What's that landscape like? And having somebody with the legal background that Allison has is huge. Let's make sure students have better nutrition, better mental health services, better training aspects, because we want to win. We want to win the right way. So those are things initially. And I imagine in those first 90 days, it's coming up with a strategic plan. So putting pressure on people like myself to explain what it is I do and what our department does and why we do it. And then she will challenge the assumptions. She will say, well, why are you doing this? And I better be able to say, because of this. But if the answer is, well, why don't you try this? I got the pen and I got the pad, because those of us who work here are looking forward to the challenge of, we're not like, hey, who's this new kid? It's let's give as much running room as possible. So the learning curve of what UNH isn't too difficult, and then be ready to jump to the new beat, because anytime you bring somebody new in, you have to learn the cadence, what the job is. So there's definitely a lot going into it.
As a top administrator of a Division I athletic program, I was quite impressed by the first comment that she made, was that after she puts the things down, her personal items down on her desk, she's going to start meeting with everyone in the athletic department from top to bottom and just hear what they have to say, good and bad. I think that's probably tells a lot about the kind of person she is.
Well, what I was going to say was that any good manager never goes in with a philosophy of a new broom sweeps clean. You've got to take and know the territory and the people that you're going to be working with first before you make any of those crucial decisions. But before we do anything else, let's play a couple of minutes of the introductory speech at the press conference that Mike referred to back on July 14th, and we'll just get an idea of some of her ideas about athletics in general.
Athletics plays a critical role in the educational mission of the university, and some of the lessons that student athletes learn through athletics participation include leadership, teamwork, strategic thinking. I think the most important takeaway from athletics participation, though, especially now more than ever, is the resilience that grows from working through the inevitable failures in sports. Nobody wins every play or every game in sports. We do try, and we're going to work to keep doing that, but nobody wins every one. But the most important thing is getting up and learning from those disappointments, which then make us that much stronger and more successful. We're going to provide these tools, resources, and perspectives to our student athletes to help them achieve their best performances on and off the fields of play, supporting their physical, emotional, and mental health. Throughout my career, I've experienced and learned as much as I possibly could about NCAA Division I athletics and higher education, always with the goal of becoming the director of athletics at an outstanding institution that matches my values and prioritizes both academic and athletics excellence. And I found that in UNH, with its rich tradition and history. I love that this is an R1 research institution, but with that clear priority to provide an outstanding undergraduate education and experience to our students. And there's an incredible people-first culture that I just keep finding here, which provides such a strong foundation for everything else. We have a strong athletics program and have shown that we can compete and achieve success at the highest levels of Division I. Our men's soccer, swimming, and skiing programs are just some of those leading the way. And I'm committed to supporting all of our sports, including football, hockey, basketball, and everybody, to continue building on and improving our historic successes.
Dr. Allison Rich, the new director of athletics at the University of New Hampshire in Durham. Mike Murphy, you were there. Takeaways from what you heard from Dr. Rich.
I'll say from that last snippet, I thought it was impressive that Allison talked about those teams that have had success most recently. Men's soccer has been doing a tremendous job of perennial power in the NCAA. Skiing just had its best finish in over 4 decades at the NCAA championships. and swimming won the America East championship. So that was important that she made it clear this is programmatic success. And she brought up the revenue sports, the ones people tend to focus on with football, hockey, basketball, and wanted to be successful there. But I also like that Allison said she's been working towards this. You know, she was at Princeton, her alma mater, for the last 9 years. So, you know, academics are a big priority. But she has been to the University of the Pacific, Cal State Fullerton, Florida State, and has had experience in everything from external relations like ticketing and marketing to working NCAA. She worked in the NCAA office even earlier in her career, and she's from Chicago, went to law school there in Chicago, but she understands legislation and is on top of those things as well. So she's done so much all for this opportunity. You have to be well-rounded to get a job of that caliber, and to think President Dean and the search committee, remember, this is the president's hire. This isn't an athletics hire. They did their due diligence. They looked nationwide and they found somebody who is ready for this opportunity.
Sam?
I think you're right on there. Certainly her legal background is going to come in as an important factor, Mike, especially as we get into the world of name, image, and likeness and compliance.
And not only the NIL is one thing, because how do you monetize if you're a student athlete? Are you professional? Are you amateur? The other thing is this: there's a transformation committee in the NCAA, and transferring, which we already know made a big change where you could go from school A to school B and not have to sit out a year. Now we're headed down a path where you could transfer from school A to school B to school C to school D. It almost sounds like free agency. And
wow.
I think most student athletes don't want to go down that path where they're changing, but coaches, all of us have to get out of the mindset of, oh, this is a great freshman. Can't wait to see what she or he is doing by the time they're a senior.
Right.
I have to hope they're still there by the time they're a senior.
Sure.
And
Right.
that's going to be a real change. This is not just one and done, which changed college basketball all those years ago. This is where, I hate to say it, but it will feel like free agency when the biggest names in college sports, forget UNH, biggest names at the biggest levels. All right, well, this year I played at Alabama football. Well, next year looks like USC's got a better team, so the quarterback goes there. I mean, that's the kind of things that are now permissible. So it's a new world. UNH has got to figure it out, because all the schools in America East and Hockey East and the CAA, they're all playing by different rules.
The FBS side of the ledger is a mess right now with what's going to happen in realignment and things like that. What do you think about the future of the FCS and some of the smaller schools? How are they going to survive what's going on out there?
Nothing that affects the FBS, Sam, only affects the FBS. And I say that because USC and UCLA go into the Big Ten. We're not dealing with, when that happens, you realize, whoa, this is a nationwide. Power 5 is going to be Power 2 or 3. But in the FCS level, we have seen it with most of the best football teams in FCS leaving. James Madison went up to FBS.
Right.
Sam Houston State won a national championship going up to FBS. Jacksonville State. Now, North Dakota State, which has been the best, is currently still at this level. But everything changes. Once somebody moves here, then who's replacing them? The other conferences are looking around, and the America East just added new teams, lost Stony Brook. But, Monmouth comes into the CAA, the first football opponent we're going to have. Bryant is the team that came into the America East. So UNH is in a good spot right now with its conferences, but you always have to be looking at what's coming down the pike, because I don't think anybody anticipated a month ago what happened with the California schools joining the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to just think of all the things that didn't happen where conversations must have occurred. Even at this level, you always have to be wondering how do you position yourself, your school, your programs, so you're not caught flat-footed when somebody defects or a league suddenly doesn't look the same as it did.
She comes in with a to-do list or putting together a to-do list. What do you think some of her top priorities will be as far as sports programs and or facilities?
Yeah, and she prefers to go by Allison. I know that the doctor thinks she's earned it, which is great, but she's so down to earth. Allison is a big part. That's how I haven't forgotten she has a doctor. I want to go by her preferred name. So anyway, the question you asked is, what is she doing for? That's a great question, Sherm. And I think it's taking that holistic approach first. Okay, meet the coach. How's your program? What do you need? Next coach, what do you need? And then within reason, take that information, parse out, all right, here's what we really need. The air conditioning, whatever, that's one joke, because what does it cost? You learn at UNH, there's not money, limitless money, but what can we do within the confines of what we're doing? What can we do better, be more financially responsible, and then spend in these areas? I've been part of multiple people changing. I work for multiple people, and each time the personality is different, our approach is different. So it's finding out in those first 90 to 100 days what Allison feels is the best direction for UNH.
And one thing she did bring up in that press conference was the fact that Princeton, where she came from, had more sports programs, and she's open-minded to expanding the UNH Wildcat sports family. So did you get a feel for what that might mean? Or
well, the questions were that way because people, when she was first introduced, said, hey, what about bringing wrestling there? Because she came from a school there's wrestling. But when she was here, I heard Jay Pinsino, for example, saying, hey, baseball and softball, what about bringing those back? And she's like, well, let me find out where my office is first, and then I can address those things. If you're asking me in the next 2 to 3 years, will we see a new sport here? I'd be surprised. I think it's to do things right, you have to evaluate what you currently have and what the future is of all those programs. And I don't see us getting rid of any of these sports. So are we in a position to add? It'd be nice, right? I'm looking out from the stadium now, and what used to be the baseball stadium, for those who haven't been here in a while, is now almost a fully fledged soccer and lacrosse facility. There's still phase 2. The field is there, the pitch, if you will, but we don't have the stands, we don't have the video board to make those programs have the home they deserve. I mean, they're playing at Wildcat Stadium, which is great in its own right, but we know the future in the next 5 years is for those programs to have the cozy confines and even a better home field advantage of a stadium that's specific to their sports.
Sam?
Speaking of facilities, Mike, a lot of people might not be aware that the Whittemore Center is undergoing some major renovations. Can you give us an update on that?
Yeah, the university did, and this goes back to pre-pandemic. The plan was in place that when the season ended in 2019-20, the Whittemore Center needed the ice making equipment and all the ice redone. I'm no genius by any means. I'm a communications guy. But the fact is, there were a few games throughout the years that the ice had shown its age, and we needed to upgrade. And that was the time to take a look. So, okay, if we're going to do this, the Whittemore Center is 27 years old. If you're going to make a big change like this ice making, what else do you want to change? And when the WIT was built in the mid 1990s, the sport of hockey, the trend was to build Olympic size ice. So if you watch the Boston Bruins, they play NHL size, 200 by 80 or 85. And then the WIT was like 200 by 100, a lot wider, bigger. Yeah. And it was a great facility for so long. But knowing you want to recruit against the other top teams, you want to get players who have aspirations to go to the NHL. You want to play at a closer to an NHL size rink. So it goes from 200 by 100 to 200 by 90. So it's not quite NHL. It's a few feet away, but it's different. You're moving things in. So it'll be a different looking ice. How that changes a few things, that's still being decided because they're working on it right now. There's a big tarp blocking everything. There's no ice in. So when the hockey players were here this summer, they'd go to Exeter and work out there, or go to Dover maybe, I don't know. But I know Exeter was part of it because they have great facilities there. The point is, come September, when they finally pull the curtain out and we'll see the ice in place, then we'll know what it looks like, how it changes things. And it's an exciting time. I know both Hillary Witt, the women's coach, Mike Souza, the men's coach, endorsed the change in dimensions and having ice that's suitable for playing, new boards and new glass for safety. And then soon a new sound system.
Hey,
like Sherm, because you can have the best voice in the world, like Sherm Chester is, but if you don't have the system to go with it, it sometimes sounded like a subway. That's
underwater.
That was the most exciting thing I ever did, being down on the ice like that, doing a couple of those games, I'll tell you, and talk about the puck hitting the glass, ho, 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 and zims over your head like that.
It is great. It is definitely different than, and being here at the stadium where you're the voice of God during football, or in Lundholm. And Lundholm also has a new sound system. You're not going to believe. So when you start talking, this is for both of you guys as PA guys, the music automatically drops down.
That's
So
cool.
heard, and when you stop talking, the music automatically goes back
Wow.
up. It's unbelievable. I
great.
got there talking to no audience just to test it out. And
That's
I'm
great.
excited for basketball and volleyball season.
Well, we're in the throes of summer, but I know I'm the type of guy after the 4th of July, I get the snowblower ready. But we got fall on the horizon, and the fall sports programs will be kicking off here in August. So give us a rundown of what is happening.
I don't get the snowblower quite ready yet, Sherm, but I'm with you. After the 4th of July, I start to get the itch for fall. Nothing like being hot and realize how much fun it is when the sports season kicks into gear, and nothing against the summer sports, because baseball is even more exciting once summer ends and you're into fall. But right now, getting ready, seeing football guys working out, there's camps all around here. So I drove in today past girls soccer camp. There's been volleyball camp, basketball camp, but the athletes who are here, a number of football players are working out. The coaches can't work with them per se, but strength and conditioning can, and you can have a few meetings here and there. But it's great to see the guys and see, geez, he looks a little bigger than he did last year. And oh wow, Max Brosmer's healthy now, and we haven't seen him play quarterback in what seems like eons, but he's so experienced that you realize all the other weapons like Dylan Lauby, Brian Espinette, with Max back. I think there's much excitement about the program. I know we had that tough stretch to end the year, but I believe with Coach Santos and all the staff, most fans would concur, that feels like the blip on the radar.
Mm-hmm.
Getting back to where those last games in November will mean potential playoffs and being ranked again. That's where UNH should be, wants to be, and hopefully will be.
Thursday night throwdown, September 1st, Monmouth. Give us an update.
It's been 5 years, Sam, since we opened at home. And last time we did, it was a Thursday night because it was the first week of school. You beat the Labor Day weekend where people tend to do their last trips. And so Thursday night is magical. And so Monmouth, brand new CAA team. And when that game was put on the schedule, it was a non-conference game because, you plan these schedules out years in advance. But here it is, their first game in the CAA. It's here at Wildcat Stadium. Always a highly attended event. People are geared up for it. And under the lights should be a great way to get things going the 1st of September.
Did I read a press release, something about an agreement with Boston College and UNH football?
Well, you didn't read a press release. I have seen those reports, and my official terminology we talked today is I cannot confirm.
Okay. That's out there. It certainly would be a nice rivalry game if that were to happen.
Yeah, you can go to Google and see what was said. It was not for this year. And, there are
it's out. Yeah, it's out.
That forecast schedules down the road. And,
sure. It's out in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How about
on the paper yet? Let's put it that way.
How about the transfer portal? Has UNH and Coach Santos been involved in that at all?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, every team, every sport, some more than others, you have to be involved in the portal. So I can't tell you because we haven't started camp yet. The guys officially arrive August 1st into the early part of summer, but we have grad students here from other schools, and a few have moved on to other, and that's just how it is from now on. It's not a UNH problem or an FCS problem. It's just the way of the world. So if you don't get involved in the transfer portal, you're doing your program and your athlete a disservice.
One thing was brought up during the Allison Rich press conference, and she brought it up towards the tail end of the presentation, that the name, image, likeness issue that you brought up earlier, you and Sam. I'm just curious from your viewpoint, and we talked trade portal, and another issue was the name, image, likeness. As a fan, we'll take you out of take your UNH Wildcat hat off for a minute. Just as a fan, do you see that being a problem?
I just think it's going to be tough to get used to, Sherm. Let's take, for example, and I always go to the highest level as a fan. So let's pretend for a minute Michael Jordan is playing at North Carolina. to get a name we all remember. And Michael Jordan is a sophomore at UNC. In 2022, chances are he'd be the top 5 pick in the draft, and he wouldn't stay for his junior year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in theory, there could be many boosters in North Carolina saying, we'll pay you more to stay than to go into the NBA draft. It could be college, Kentucky, you name it, Kansas, where all of a sudden players are going to stay 4 years because I'm making more money here while I wear this college uniform.
Mm-hmm.
And when I go to the pros, I won't have the same lifestyle. I think most kids would love to be at college 4 years. Most of us want to stay 10 years. You know, it's a great life being on a college campus. It's vibrant, but there's been so much pressure to go pro early. What if you get injured? I think we'll see that. You know, it'll be I hate to say a bidding war in some cases, but I think that's what we'll see at the very top level. And at our level, I think it's exciting for the student athletes to know they can make some money doing some things. I don't think it's going to be quite as dramatic as, you know, it'd be interesting, right? If Ricky Santos and David Ball were playing now, what kind of money they would have made at UNH. It's different. You know, it's hard to get used to as a fan, but what choice do we have? Put our head in the sand and deny? It's going to happen.
Right.
I'm just going to bring up one story that I over the summer, Mike and Sherm, I've been following 2 situations. What's happening in name, image, likeness. I'm reading everything I can about that. And also the golf tour with the Arabian League and things like that that's going on, that's messing up pro golf right now. But on the NIL, I just read an article that at Texas Tech, which has been in the news a lot, the coach of Texas Tech, I believe Jimbo Fisher, feels that NIL might cause problems in the locker room, where that if you get a handful of guys that are making money and a majority of guys that aren't making any money in there, is that going to cause a rift? Could you lose the locker room? And Texas Tech just came out with a report that said that their booster organization, which is called the Matador Club, has put out an idea that they are going to fund, and again, this is very well-heeled boosters, they are going to fund a $25,000 NIL deal for every scholarship football athlete on the Texas A&M, on the Texas A&M team, so that there's no discord in the locker room. Reactions?
I guess I'll go first. Ask yourself, how does it work in pro sports? When guys get contracts, or in the WNBA, I'm sure women get contracts. Oh yeah, there'll be discord in the locker room. Now you're taking people who are much younger and adding that element. Whether you lose the locker room as a result, it's going to test the character of everyone in that locker room to keep the team mentality over the individual mentality. And, you know, the LIV tour with golf, we're seeing that, right? The PGA losing people because, well, I can make more money doing this for me. What's best for me? And how do you fault a student athlete for having a similar mindset? So unintended consequences, I expect that will be one of them. I really do, Sam.
And the only thing I'll say is, I think I'd rather be a big fish in a small pond than a small fish in a big pond, hoping I could get some of that extra cash. So I think I'd rather go to a school where I fit in, period. I mean, the other stuff is gravy. If you gravy on your potatoes, if you can make a name for yourself in a sport, but if you want to play the sport and also get a good education, those are the 2 things you're there for. Not necessarily in that order, I know, but.
Right. Well, I heard a story secondhand, so I didn't witness this, but it stuck with me. Angus Crookshank was a hockey player here at UNH just a couple of years ago. Now he's working his way up with the Ottawa Senators. One of our top prospects, top players, unbelievable guy. When he was being recruited, a lot of other schools would show, here's what the locker room looks like. And when he came to UNH and talked to Coach Mike Souza, and I'm paraphrasing what I heard, he said, I don't need 8 TVs in the locker room. Like, that's not what I'm coming to.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to find that kind of the kids who understand at New Hampshire, you're not going to become famous. You're part of something bigger than you. Coach Mack preached it forever, the blue collar, lunch bucket, hard hat mentality. Coach Mack still kind of cringes at the new stadium because he took pride in having the worst stadium in college football and winning with it. And that it's hardened the kids. And you don't want to lose your identity. I don't think New Hampshire's close to having the problems of some of the blue bloods out there, but it does change things. And maybe you have to be a little more creative. Coach Santos and his staff definitely have to be more creative You see it even in social media. When somebody, a high school senior visits, chances are you're going to see them in the uniform, with the Wildcat in the background, putting pictures on their social media saying blessed to receive an offer, right? Every school does it now. And you wouldn't have seen that 10 years ago.
Right.
It's wait till you don't put the uniform on until you're on the team, but you have to evolve. And that's one of the examples of it.
I was just going to say, Sherm, we're talking about all this stuff that's wrong with college sports and all the problems that are happening and with realignment and name, image, likeness. Just so impressed with what I read the other day, Mike, about the academic honors that UNH just received for their athletes.
Yeah. And, when you say, I don't want to correct you because you have your opinion, if it's wrong about college sports, it's hard to say. It's different. And I think there are a lot of student athletes.
Maybe we're changing.
Yeah, it would definitely changing, but the academic, that's not going to change here. UNH won the Academic Cup in America East for the 5th time in the last 7 years. Our cross country team just got 21 in the academic honor roll, men's hockey, volleyball. It's graduates first, right? I mean, you can count on one hand the number of UNH student athletes who became multimillionaires outside of this world. There's a heck of a lot more who are working in business or working in education or in finance because they came to school here. And that's where you're going to, that's what parents are looking at when they're deciding where their schools go their kids go the next 4 years. And that won't change. That will not change with Allison Rich.
Well, I also, that was what I was going to bring up. She made that mention in that little snip that we played of her press conference that, athleticism or athletics important, but it's the education part of it. They go in tandem. That's what UNH's focus is to make sure whoever graduates has an education. Sure, they can play a sport, but they've got a good education, something to back them up, because we all know anything can happen. You could be the best athlete out there, and all it takes is a freak injury, and your career is over with. And you better have something to fall back on, and having a good education and a career to go to. That's important, no doubt about it.
The other thing she said to touch on is sports teaches us what it's like to fail.
Right.
We want to win, but dealing with adversity at this level is going to prepare you for life. And we hate losing, but you see so much about people, how they act after losses or how they bounce back in terms of those things, or losing a starting job to somebody else. You can't replicate that in what sports does for people and preparing them for the harsh realities of the real world that awaits them after college.
I was going to say about the word I would use when it came to sports, Sam, is evolving. I mean, we talked about it in previous shows, how baseball is evolving. It's trying to become a younger man or younger person's sport for the audience sake. So, it just is. It's, we're playing the back nine, kid, and we're heading to the clubhouse. So before, and you brought it up in a previous conversation, Mike, you're a Jets fan, so I got to ask you about the New York Jets and that NFL draft. What do you think?
Dare I say I'm optimistic? You draft somebody named Sauce, a defensive back named Sauce Gardner, I'm already intrigued. I think Zach Wilson, even though he's getting all the social media accolades for his mother's friends right now, I think he improved as the year went along. And it was so bad at the beginning of the year that the numbers don't bear it out. It's a really tough schedule. And, the Patriots are right there, and the Bills being who they are, and who knows what Miami is. But darn it, I'm ready. I'm ready to be frustrated again. Lucy's holding the ball. Charlie Brown's ready to kick. And this time she's not going to pull it away from me.
And you got a grandson now that can commiserate with you while you're rocking in the rocking chair.
Yeah, we'll see who's crying louder at about 4:30 on a Sunday afternoon, as I'm used to being upset.
Mike, what kind of television coverage will UNH football have this fall?
That's still being discussed even as we're talking here. NBC Sports Boston's been a terrific partner of ours, and we're still looking at how our game times reflect with what happens with their schedule. But in addition, the Flow football package will continue. Flow Sports has done every single CAA conference game home and away, so we'll stream those. If people get the Flow subscription, they can watch UNH home, away, and have no problems with that.
There's one other thing I wanted to ask you about I touched on the Jets. I know that could be a sore spot, but here's something that you do every year, and it's something fun. And I always see it on Facebook. You and your son go on a guys trip every year
Oh,
to
yeah.
amusement parks, and you guys are roller coaster junkies, right? You love the roller coaster thrill rides.
Yes.
Okay, now of all the ones you've gone to over the years, which one has made your hair rise?
None, obviously.
None.
All right, your beard.
Yeah,
Let-
make my
let-
beard
let's-
gray.
We'll
That
change
might
it
be
to
a better-
stomach turn.
All right, the stomach turn. Yeah. What's the one that gets you guys, or has
Oh.
gotten you guys?
Well, as an older, I appreciate you bringing that up because the annual roller coaster trip with my son it goes back to 2013. I mean, he's been loving amusement parks since he was tiny, but every year we go now, and it's been a decade plus. And but I'm old school. Like every year he finds his top 5 or he finds them and changes them. And I haven't been to this park in a couple of years, but I compare everything to this ride because it always brings me the most joy. And that is Millennium Force, which is right in Sandusky, Ohio, at Cedar Point, which is the mecca of those who love roller coasters. But I love going to different places, and so does he. And this year we were lucky enough, we were in Salt Lake City, Utah, at a park called Lagoon. And then we're in California. We went up from Sacramento down to San Diego. And whether it's Disney a couple of days or SeaWorld that has rides, we had a great time. We just had a time of our lives. And I cherish those moments, even if he likes the rides a little more than I do at this point. It's okay to get some of the smaller rides on occasion, which I appreciate. He likes to go on those too.
That's a good guy trip. I that's something that you make out a list of one of those bucket list things, and then that's one of those things you want to check off at some point. And I'm happy for you and your son to do that. And now you're a granddaddy. Oh man, you got it made in the shade.
Well, I can't wait for my grandson to be old enough to take my spot, so uncle and nephew can go on those trips. And maybe I'll sit in the bench in the shade and just watch, which is still my favorite ride.
Hey, Sam, do you have anything to wrap
I
up?
was just gonna say, Mike, the best way to get all the greatest and latest on UNH sports is UNHWildcats.com.
That's right. And for that younger, hipper Exeter TV audience, you can always go to our social media channels. We have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and a lot of announcements coming up. You know, the hockey schedule is coming out. Football tickets are going on sale. And we're less than a month away, guys, from the start of the season. Soccer's will be starting up in mid-August. Early August, all the fall teams will be here. And
Great.
we'll get out of this heat and get back to some good weather so we can get together here at the stadium.
Are you still doing Wildcast, the podcast?
The Wildcast will be back. I have to have Allison Rich on. I'm trying to chase down Marty Scarano for a last episode because at 22 years, I can imagine the stories that he would share. But it's been kind of ever since that vacation we just talked about. It's been a little quieter around here, so I haven't chased as many people down, but I love it. I love being able to talk with people, the movers and shakers here at UNH. No shortage of personalities and stories.
You do a great job with it. Sam, you got the 2-minute drill for us? And then we'll let Mike go.
Again, my 2-minute drill, I'm just going to go back to baseball, Sherm. We are just moving through the All-Star break right now. And, you know, I keep rooting for baseball. I want baseball to be back in its heyday. I want it to be the #1 sport. But they just keep shooting themselves in the foot. They had a home run derby the other night that first it started out with the players getting out and they were scared of all the effects that they had behind them. They thought they were going to get burnt or blown up or something like that. And then they get into the home run derby and they can't even count the number of home runs right. You know, they got the count wrong on a Schwarber versus Pujols matchup. I mean, all you got to do is count. It goes 1, 2, 3, and they couldn't get that right. Baseball just can't do it. They just can't get it right. And let's hope that they have an exciting second half of the season.
Yeah, and hope the Red Sox can get some pitching back again. Now that they've lost Sale again, this isn't good. Mike, you got something for our 2-minute drill, sir?
I think it goes back to a theme that we've talked about here a lot on this episode, and that is embracing change. And I'm not somebody who really likes change just for the sake of change. That's why I enjoy seeing you guys. It reminds me of years and years of good times and memories. But everything here at UNH is changing. New director of athletics, new football coach, new era. Have to embrace that. baseball. We hadn't talked about that, but I don't watch baseball the same way I did 5 years ago, let alone 10, 20 years ago. But you have to find out, okay, the game is changing. I better change my perspective on things. And having a new member of the family as my grandson, that's exciting change. I'm definitely embracing that change and looking forward to just being part of it, evolving along with it, because if you don't adapt, you'll be left behind.
Well, I have two quick items for the 2-minute drill and just updates on things that happened in the Granite State since we last spoke. First off, I guess we'll go with the NASCAR up in Loudon, the big race. They had Christopher Bell, one of the young guns, came up the winner. And we were talking about it in our podcast. Sam and I kicked it around. I said probably it would be a young gun that would win the thing, but the old timers were hanging in there too. Chase Elliott was number 2. Bubba Wallace came in 3rd. And then the old timers, Martin Truex, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, and Brad Keselowski in that order. So congratulations to Christopher Bell, one of the new young guns. And then congratulations to Brendan Gillis from Nashua Country Club. He won the state amateur golf tournament that took place over at Abenaqui Country Club this past week. He beat out Laconia's Jim Silly, and he came in and he was a finalist last year, and he said his goal was to take it all. And congratulations, Brandon, you did. And one question before we wrap up, Mike, what is your handle going to be for your grandson?
I am Pop.
Pop. Okay. All right.
I am definitely Pop, like Pop Lacey and Pop Bush back in the UNH days. Pop is right here.
Double Pop. And what about Grandma Tish? Is she going to be Grandma? Grammy?
She's Grammy.
Okay.
She already has a Grammy shirt, so she's already ahead of me. She already got herself geared up. Pop and Grammy. Yep.
The ladies are always ahead of us when it comes to having grandkids.
No question about that.
Well, congratulations to both of you and your family on the new edition, and have a lot of fun. Good luck to Dr. Allison Rich, the new director of athletics at the University of New Hampshire. I'm sure, Mike, you're going to have a good time getting in a new relationship, but also congratulations and happy retirement to Marty Scarano and all the years that he put in as the director of athletics at UNH, and job well done. And so on behalf of our special guest, Mike Murphy, and I'll give your title, Associate Athletic Director for Marketing Communications, and Sam Bruno, I'm Sherm Chester, inviting you to join us for the next edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum. You can listen to the Seacoast Sports Forum on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to watch the episodes of the Seacoast Sports Forum on our Seacoast Sports Forum YouTube page. And when you're there, hit the bell to subscribe and like us. And if you have any sports photos or game videos you'd like to send us, or comments, Seacoast Sports Forum at yahoo.com. This is Sherm Chester inviting you to join us for the next edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum.